you know that a brand new California law that took effect January 1st of this year just made it illegal to use AI edited photos in your home listing without disclosure? And here's what scares me. Most sellers have absolutely no idea their photos are being edited by AI right now. Their agent uses virtual stagings, removes power lines, changes the paint color digitally, greens up the dead grass, adds water to dry pool, and never tells anyone. Under the new law, that single move can void your sale, expose you to a lawsuit, and put your agent's license in jeopardy. I'm going to break this entire law down for you today. What it says, what it covers, what the consequences are, and exactly what you need to ask your real estate agent before your home hits the market. Hi, my name is Rima Rafeh with the Rafeh Group here with eXp Realty in Santa Clarita Valley. I've been in real estate for over 2 decades. I've closed over $1 billion in transactions across Santa Clarita Valley, Antelope Valley, and greater Los Angeles area. And I keep very close eye on every law, every regulation, and every shift in this industry that affects my clients. When AB 723 passed, I studied it carefully. And what I found alarmed me. Not because the law is bad, but because almost no one is talking about it. Today, I'm changing that. So let's start at the beginning. What is AB 723 and why did California feel the need to pass it? The official name is Assembly Bill 723. It was signed into law in October 2025, and it took effect in January 1st, 2026. It's now Conduct of a Business and Professional Code Section 10140.8. And it does something no California law has ever done before. It creates a specific legal disclosure requirements for digitally altered real estate marketing images. To understand why this law exists, you have to understand what has been happening in real estate photography over the last several years. AI tools have advanced to a point where virtually any image can be dramatically altered in minutes. And I mean dramatically. A backyard with dead grass becomes a lush green lawn. A dark, cramped living room becomes bright and airy. An empty home gets fully furnished with beautiful virtual staging. Power lines disappear, neighboring overseas vanish, and pool water appears in a dry shell. A gray overcast sky becomes a golden sunset. These tools are fast, they are cheap, and they are everywhere. The problem is that the buyers were showing up to properties and walking into a completely different home than the one they fell in love with online. The photos showed a reality that did not exist, and in some cases, buyers were making offers, going into escrow, and not discovering the discrepancy until they were deep into the transaction. California looked at this trend and said, enough. Buyers deserve to know what they are actually looking at. And that is what AB 723 is designed to enforce. Now, here's the critical piece I want every seller watching this to understand. This law does not ban AI edited photos. It does not say you cannot use virtual staging or remove objects digitally. What it says is that if you do, you must disclose it clearly and with the original and edited photo available for any buyers to see. That is the requirement, and that's the consequences for ignore it is a real thing. So let me walk you through what exactly AB 723 requires because the details matter here. The law requires real estate brokers, salespersons, and anyone acting on their behalf to disclose when property marketing images have been digitally altered and to provide buyers access to the original and edited versions. These are 2 core requirements every sellers need to understand. The first is clear and conspicuous disclosure. When the digitally altered images is used in any real estate marketing, there must be a clear and disclosure stating that the image has been digitally altered. And that disclosure must appear on or directly adjacent to the altered images, not buried in fine print, not hidden in a disclosure package on page 7, for example, on the image, where a buyer will actually see it, a caption that says virtually staged, a label that reads digitally altered right here. There is the next photo. That's how you'll protect yourself. The second requirement is that the original photo must be available, the actual and edited photo, what the property looks like without the AI enhancement, must be accessible to buyers. Agent must upload the original unaltered image to a publicly accessible location like Google Drive folder, media gallery, or dedicated page on their website. And that link can go next to every altered image that everywhere it appears. For the MLS listing specifically, the original photo must be included directly before or after the altered version in the listing view. And this requirement is not limited to the MLS. It covers every place that the marketing appears. Your Instagram post, your Facebook ad, your property website, your email blast, your printed flyer, and every place altered image is published. The disclosure requirement applies. This is not a narrow MLS rule. It's a statewide legal obligation that follows the image wherever it goes. Now let's talk about what actually triggers this law, because there's a lot of confusion about what counts as digitally altered and what does not. Images changed using digital editing tools or artificial intelligence to add, remove, replace, or modify visual elements such as furniture, appliances, or decor are considered digitally altered under this law. And yes, AI altered images count. Edits that agents have used for years without disclosure now clearly require it. Turning on lights digitally, greening grass, removing clutter or equipment, adding pool water, removing snow or cords, adding fireplace effects, removing imperfections. These practices existed before, but disclosure was voluntarily. In California now, it's required by law. So let me put some of these plain language, virtually staging, adding furniture, art, rugs, and decor to an empty room digitally requires disclosures. This is one of the most commonly used tools in real estate marketing today, and it now requires both a label on the photo and access to the original empty room photo. Removing power lines or telephone poles, disclosure required. Adding to a dry or dead lawn, disclosures required. Adding water to an empty pool, the disclosure is required as well. And removing any neighboring structure that affects the view, disclosure required. So changing the color of walls, cabinets, or countertop digitally, definitely disclosure is required. And adding a fire to a fireplace that was not lit during the shoot, disclosures are required as well. Now let me tell you what does not require disclosure, because this is equally important. Routine photo adjustment like brightness, exposure, white balance, and mirror color correction are standard industry practices and do not require to be disclosed under AB 723. The law targets edits that materially mislead, not standard photographic processing. A photographer who brightens a dark room using exposure adjustment, no disclosure needed. The distinction is simple. Does the edit make the property appear different from what actually is? If yes, disclose. If no, you are perfectly fine. And when in doubt, the safest path is to treat it as digitally altered and disclose it anyway. Now let's talk about what happens when someone does not comply, because this is not a rule with slap on the wrist consequence. This law has real teeth and 3 distinct layers of exposure. The first layer is licensing enforcement. The California Department of Real Estate has direct enforcement authority over AB 723. An agent who knowingly uses undisclosed AI altered photo in a listing can face disciplinary action from the DRE, up to and including suspension or revocation of their real estate license. This is not hypothetical. The DRE has stated enforcement mechanisms are in place. So the second layer is the civil liability. If a buyer makes an offer based on undisclosed altered photos, and some buyers, particularly investors, foreign nationals, and relocation buyers, do not physically inspect properties before closing, and the property does not match what was presented, that buyer has legal grounds to pursue civil liability against the listing agent and the broker, and potentially the seller. Even if you, as a seller, did not know the photos were altered, even if you never asked for it, your agent's compliance failure can become your legal problem. The third layer is criminal exposure. AB 723 sits inside California real estate licensing law. And in California, willful violations of real estate licensing law can be prosecuted as misdemeanor. That means potential jail time, fines, and criminal record. For an agent who knowingly use AI altered photos without disclosure, this is not something they pay a fine and move on from. This is a career-ending event, and ignorance of the law is not a defense. That principle is ancient and unyielding, and it applies to agents and sellers alike. So here's the uncomfortable truth. I want every seller watching this to sit for a moment. The vast majority of sellers have absolutely no idea how their listing photos are actually being handled. You hire an agent, the agent hires a photographer, the photographer shoots your home and delivers photos. Then those photos go through editing process that the seller is almost never part of and rarely informed about. Maybe the photographer's software automatically applies virtual staging to an empty bedroom. Maybe the agent uses an AI tool to remove the power lines in the backyard shot. Maybe someone digitally greens up the lawn that was looking a little tired when the photos were taken. These are not dramatic alterations. They are subtle. They are kind of thing that make a listing photo look just a little better than reality. And they have been standard practice in the industry for years. The difference today is that was previously an industry norm is now a legal requirement with consequences. And the seller whose name's on that listing, who property is being marketed, and who has the most to lose if a transaction falls apart, is often the last person to know any of these happening. So what do you actually do with this information? Here's exactly how to protect yourself as a seller right now. Before you sign a listing agreement, ask your agent directly, do you or your photographer use any digital alteration on your listing photos? Virtual staging, AI editing tools, object removal, sky replacement. You want direct answer and you want to understand their compliance process before your home ever goes to the market. An agent who knows the law follows it and can explain their compliance workflow clearly as an agent who operates with integrity. An agent who does not know what AB 723 is in 2026 is an agent who may be exposing you to a liability right now. As a seller, ask to see both versions of every altered photo. You have every right as the seller to see the original unaltered photos alongside any edited versions being used in your marketing. Review them, make sure the alteration being made are ones you are comfortable with and that they are being properly disclosed. Confirm where the disclosures are appearing. If it's enough for your agent to know the law exists, ask them specifically where are the disclosures labels appearing and are they on the MLS listing, on the property website, on social media posts, on the flyers. Compliance is required everywhere the altered image is published. And make sure your original photos are accessible. Ask your agent how they are providing buyers access to the original photos. What is the link? Where does it live? Is it on the listing? Is it legal requirement, not a bureaucratical detail? And get it in writing. Ask your agent to confirm in writing that all marketing images used in your listing comply with AB 723. Any agent confident in their compliance will have no problem confirming it. Now, I want you to be very clear about something because I do not want anyone walking away from this video thinking that AI marketing, that is the wrong conclusion entirely. AI is not the problem. Deception is. Done correctly and disclosed properly, virtual staging is an incredible tool. An empty house is hard for most buyers to emotionally connect with. They walk through vacant rooms and struggle to understand how furniture would fit, how the space would feel, how would they actually live there. Virtual staging solves that, and it helps buyers fall in love with potential, and that is legitimate, powerful, and valuable service. The same goes for other enhancements, professional photos to show a home as its best with optimal lighting, clean composition, and beautiful presentation are not deception, they are marketing. The line is crossed when an edit materially changes what a buyer believed is actually there. When the grass in the photo is green and the grass in yard is actually brown. When the view in the photo is open and clear and the actual view includes a freeway. When the living room in the photo is fully furnished and actual living room is totally empty. When you tell a buyer this image is virtually staged to show potential, you are not hedging. You are positioning yourself as the professional in the room. That's not just compliance, that is competitive advantage. I want to spend a few minutes on what AB 723 actually represents at a bigger level, because I think this law is about more than the listing photos. It's signal about where it hits entire industry is heading. We are in the middle of the most significant technological shift in the history of real estate marketing. AI can now generate photorealistic images of homes that do not exist. It can alter videos. It can create virtual walkthroughs of properties that look completely different from reality. The tools are extraordinary, and they are only going to get more powerful. California saw this coming and decided to get ahead of it. AB 723 is the first state law in the country specifically addressing AI-altered images in real estate, and it will not be the last. Regulators are moving from vague, do not mislead guidance to disclose-based requirements that are easy to audit. Other states will follow. This is the beginning of regulatory wave, not the end. What this means for sellers is that agents worth working with are the ones who are already ahead of this, the ones who do not need a law to tell them to be honest, the ones who proactively disclose, properly document, and operate with the understanding that their job is to present your home accurately and powerfully, not to fabricate a version of it that does not exist. Before I wrap up, let me give you a clean, simple reference you can actually use. Edits that require disclosure under AB 723, virtual staging of any kind, removing objects from property, including power lines and clutter, adding or enhancing feature like pool, water, or green grass, or fireplace frames, changing colors or finishes digitally, sky replacement, and removing visible defects or damage. Edits that do not require disclosure standards, exposure, and are brightness adjustment, white balance, and color correction that does not alter the property's appearance, sharpening, noise reduction, straightening and cropping, and lens distortion correction.